everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Making a Difference in Mental Health. I'm Danielle. Wendy will be back in the next episode. But today we have a very special guest, our friend Dakari Taylor Watson. At this point, he is a vet. This is his second appearance on the show. We are so happy to have you. Hey, Dakari, how are you?
Danielle, I'm doing amazingly well. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here today to talk to you all about toxic masculinity. I do feel like a vet. I know the first conversation that we had last year at this time went really well, and it was really impactful to me and some of my community. So grateful for the opportunity to extend the conversation, and I'm excited about it. So thank you.
I'm happy to have you here. And I just want everyone to know, go check out 2025-ish, around that time, June of last year, and you'll see Dakari's episode of us in the community doing a lot of things for the kids and for those within certain communities within Prince George's County. So we are excited. But today, Dakari, let's get started on the conversation about toxic masculinity. Before we do, though, can you introduce yourself to our audience who may not have been able to see the last episode, but they are watching you for the first time?
Absolutely. Thank you for the opportunity. So my name is Dakari Taylor Watson. I am a second year community school coordinator here in Prince George's County, Maryland. I currently am working at Kettering Elementary School. We serve about 450 students in the Kettering, Largo, Mitchellville community here. And I love this work. Being in the community, working in the community is something that I've always done. I've always tried to attach myself with. I felt like the stories, the experiences, some of the challenges, but the assets as well are all things that really develop and really define a community. And so those are things that I've always felt attached to and wanted to, in some way, shape, or form, help support, help lead, or even just listen sometimes. And so I've been working in this space for about 20 years in some capacity, where I've always been supporting communities or developing some of the infrastructure in those communities around schools and in schools to ensure that there's equitable access to resources for everyone. So something that I feel passionate about. I feel like it's something that, like I said, I've done for a long time. It's something that I really enjoy.
We're so thankful too. We are part of the community schools program as well here at Advanced Behavioral Health. So definitely understand that passion, the intent for the community, especially for young people. And today we want to talk about the young men. So toxic masculinity. We've started a series. We've had a couple CEUs and professional developments on toxic masculinity. We've even had a few conversations about certain Netflix shows and different things
Mhm.
when it comes to bring attention either in the media, social media, the kids that we work with this topic of toxic masculinity. We want to know, what are your thoughts? Because you work with a group of students. This particular age group is very impressionable, and we really, really here have wanted to focus more on interesting issues, conversation around young men and toxic
Mhm.
masculinity. So, what are your thoughts, and how would you define it?
Great question. Um, as a black man who's worked across multiple school systems and cultures, I've seen toxic masculinity as a set of harmful expectations placed on both boys and men. And I think the idea that we must always be tough, unemotional, dominant, or in control, right? Like it's not masculinity itself necessarily that's the problem. It's the pressure to perform a narrow version of manhood that leaves no room for vulnerability, curiosity, or emotional expression. I think that's something that's ingrained in a lot of us from a young age, and I think that we are trying to overcome and kind of rewrite the lens of around what that looks like. But for me, toxic masculinity shows up when boys feel like they can't cry, can't ask for help, or can't show kindness without being teased. It limits them before they even understand who they are and leaves reverberating effects throughout the rest of their life and then their communities they're in as well.
That's such a good observation, a way to describe and define it. There have been times where we have had conversations here on the podcast. We've had conversations within therapeutic support groups and just initiatives that we want for the community of how to reach certain groups, including young boys. And then we also kind of take a look, or try at least to take a look at the root and where that conversation starts. Can boys cry? Is it not cool to
Hmm.
cry? And then what is perpetuated from their developmental stages, very young, all the way up until elementary and middle school age. And this is kind of the group that you the age group that you work with. So that's a really good way to define it. And you're right there on the ground. Like you're on the
Hmm.
ground with these young people every day.
Yeah.
And to be able to conceptualize it in a way that is, therapeutic and also that
Hmm.
is like just really real. Like, let's get real
Right.
with what our young boys are experiencing. And then, but let's continue on with the conversation because I feel like this is going to be a
Sure.
really good conversation. And so, what I want to ask is, have you seen this per your definition and then per your observation? Have you seen this in the school environment? I remember on last school year, you were in the middle school environment. This year, you're in the elementary school environment, I believe. So, have you seen it in either one? What's the difference? And how do you move about when it comes to support for the young boys?
Absolutely. So across my 20 plus years being working in education, I've worked in Prince George's County, I've worked in DC public schools, Baltimore City, and even internationally. I've seen boys internalize these messages early, right? And it shows up in how they talk to each other, how they treat each other, how they respond to conflict, and just how they like navigate life, right? And their friendships. Sometimes it's super subtle. Sometimes it's a boy refusing help because he thinks it makes him look weak, right? It could be something more direct, like teasing another student for showing emotions. It could be something where, when they're around their friends, not knowing how to ask for help, not knowing how to ask for support, right? And being the one in the group or being a member of a group who does not open up, right? When they're not opening up, they're not sharing. And I think a lot of times it is because, like I said, it would be considered weak, right? Or it's a weakness that you're showing these emotions. And so one of the things that um, I, I'm very cognizant and aware of are the interactions that myself and other male staff in the building, in other spaces have with young men, young boys, right? We want to be able to show them these expressions. We want to be able to show them these feelings. We want to be able to show, that it's okay to express yourself, right? Now, it's ways that you can do it to be more effective, but there are ways and there are specifically healthy ways to express yourself. And so we want to continue just to be a model of what that looks like for our young men as well as our young women, right? Because
Yes,
eventually they're
yes,
going
yes.
to have to interact with men, right? In certain ways. And so we want to ensure that they are developing and they're seeing healthy relationships or examples of healthy relationships as well, too. So it is a holistic approach that we are trying to take. But yes, we do see this in our school environments as well as the outside community as well.
I like that you also included young girls in there too.
Absolutely.
But I want to touch first on the point that you've made to be an example, to be someone that our young boys can look to when it comes to you and your other colleagues, when it comes to the way that they can not only treat others, but treat themselves, have empathy for
Sure.
themselves and kind of dispel this either myth or this societal expectation, or sometimes these are just behavioral patterns that are learned that, like you said, the boys don't cry, or it's you're not tough if you cry, or if you simply asking for help. You just said asking for help
Hmm.
sometimes is even a challenge for a young man. And then for the young
That's right.
girls to see how it is, it's not just them that, I mean, honestly, let's just keep it real. Girls, we have the leeway to cry, to pout,
Hmm.
to be
Yep.
angry, to be frustrated, to be excited, be overly
Hmm.
excited, to experience joy, and experience the sadness. But we're able to have this whole gamut of emotions and feelings, and we're not
Right.
really judged for it because we might be, the fairer of the two, boy, girl, male, female.
Right.
But
Right.
at the same time, too, we want to give space for young boys. And that's the one thing that we always talk about here, or that we have been talking about starting season 6. It's like, let's see what's going on with the boys. We have a lot of resources for
Hmm.
our young ladies and those who identify as female. And then we kind of leave the boys to either like video games or
Right.
sports.
Right.
And
Right.
even within
Absolutely.
those two spaces, there are a lot of emotions. There are a lot of emotions
That's
through
right.
video games or sports. But,
That's right.
getting back to the point of what you're saying, to have those role models, to have those representatives, that it is okay to go through these different ranges of emotion
Hmm.
without it being so extreme that they're not able to navigate through. So
Correct.
I
Correct.
can definitely appreciate everything
Yeah.
that you've said so far. Yeah.
Absolutely. Or even if, because sometimes, the emotions are extreme, right? And depending on what it is and how it impacts them, because every person is different, we just want to ensure that we're providing them with the resources in order to navigate those extreme emotions more effectively, more efficiently. Sometimes you just may need to cry. You may need to shout.
Exactly.
Sometimes you may just need to get it out and because you're upset or something happened at home, right? And I think something that we're doing well here is allowing spaces for that to happen with our students, but then saying, hey, this is what happened this time. This is how we may better attack it differently, right? Or this is how we may better receive these emotions differently next time. So we just want to ensure that we're providing the resources for the students in order to be able to make these decisions, not only right now, but set them up on a trajectory for life as well, too.
Absolutely. And with those resources that you have, do you find that some of the young boys or the guys are they able to express themselves in a way that maybe had they not been provided these resources, it would look totally different? Like how are they expressing themselves with the use of the tools and the resources that you have?
No, that's a great question. So one of the things that I am a stickler on is having check-ins with young men, right? How you doing today? How was your morning? How was your evening? How's your family doing? Is everything okay? Do you need anything? Right? I think there's a lot of times where we receive these students in the morning or when school begins and starts, and we don't have opportunities to like check in with them and see how they're doing because students are dealing with so many things outside of school that we just don't see. We're not privy to, right? And so we will never know unless we just have a conversation with them. So in some ways, we have like advisories, right? And so we'll sit down with students and just have a conversation with them. What's going on today? How's everything? How are you managing this? What did you think about this? Right? Like I know this happened at school yesterday. Were you affected by this? Were you impacted by this? So it gives us opportunities to ensure that those channels of communication are open for students and that they feel like they can be heard. They feel like they're connected. They feel like what they're saying is important and that they have a voice. We have an SEA here at the school in which students can submit inquiries or the questions or suggestions around like things that are going on in school, things that they want to see, activities, events. It may be something as simple as, hey, I don't have a lot of time to eat lunch today. I would love to have another 5 minutes because there's some things that I really want to talk about, like with my classmates, and just giving students the space and opportunity to like kind of lean into that and feel like they are the drivers or the galvanizers of their own community, the school community is super important. And so we've been able to see some of those gains based on giving students those opportunities or sharing with them those opportunities rather.
Do you mind shouting out, is it through the community schools program that you have these resources, or are there other resources at your
Yeah.
school as well?
Yeah, so it's both, right? So through the community schools program, I'm able to access some resources that come directly through community schools. But we also, as a school, have reached out to community members, right? We've reached out to local entities and organizations. We have opportunities like this with ABH to have conversations around mental health, and people see these opportunities and say, "Hey, well, I like this. It's something I can do. How can we partner? How can we work together?" And so we're able to utilize the resources of the community by opportunities like this, right? Or with opportunities like this. And so community schools, obviously, with our six pillars, one is inclusivity. We want to ensure that our students, our staff, our parents, and the community feels included in the decision-making process, because this affects everybody, right? It's not just us at the school, it does affect everybody. And we want to ensure that everybody feels connected to it. So we ensure that we're doing that at all stages and phases and tiers of the process and continuum.
As a community schools therapist myself, we hear about those pillars and we hear about those
Yeah.
tiers, and we also provide those resources. And I want to also say this too. I don't know if you have experienced this, but working with students, sometimes we find that that question of, hey, how are you doing? What did you do yesterday? Or how was your night last night? All the questions that you said that you kind of engage the students, you give them a little bit
Yeah.
of time, a little bit of extra time. Sometimes, Dakari, that's like the first time in a long time or the first time ever that anyone has ever asked these kids these
That's
questions.
right, Danielle.
You
That's
know,
right.
sometimes
That's right.
it's the first time that they are experiencing being seen,
Correct.
and they have to get used to it, but then they
Hmm.
are drawn to it, and then they begin
Correct.
to take an interest in,
Correct.
whether they realize it or not, investing in their mental and emotional health through the help and support of people like you. So I wanted to point that
Yeah.
out. Hmm.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And so we're going to continue on, talking about the impact of toxic masculinity. And
Hmm.
we had a very interesting question for you. You actually
Hmm.
mentioned something about it. You said, as a Black male, or being Black, and we
Yeah.
want to touch on culture. We actually do.
Absolutely. That's
So,
right.
if you could, I guess, reflect on the students that you work with now, whether it's
Hmm.
now, in the past, because you said you worked in elementary school, middle school, you've been international. When it
Hmm.
comes to culture, though, whether
Hmm.
it's, just people of color, Black, brown, people of color, is there a difference? Do you see a difference? Would you define it a little bit differently? Or is there like a streamline across the board when it comes to culture and toxic masculinity based on how you defined it, from the beginning?
Hmm. A great question. Is there a difference? Yes. And because our experiences are shared, but we're also not a monolith, right? Like we don't operate in strict silos, right? We have shared experiences where, we know that, because, your family is this or your family is that, or, you look like me, you may have shared experiences that I have. But we also recognize and realize that just because we may have some of those shared experiences in our household, my experiences may be slightly different from yours, right? I may not have access to the same resources that you have. I may have access to more resources than you have. And so I think one of the distinctions that we do well here is ensuring that we are meeting students, families, where they are, right? And that looks, I mean, you literally across the spectrum, it looks different. We have a large migrant population here at the school. And one of the things that we are very aware of is that, when families migrate to this area, that there are a lot of times there's a culture shock, right? In terms of the education system, in terms of just navigating the area, the local area, going to the store, like what does this look like? Terminology, right? And nomenclature of like naming things. And so I've seen, at different stages, and I can even sometimes divide it up by age range. So I can like if you're younger, it's
Yeah.
not as much as opposed to upper elementary, middle school, and even high school in some cases, right? And just noticing the difference. But I think, culture is a special thing, right? And that's something that we want to make sure that we are upholding here at the school and that we're not trying to take anything away from your culture because in your culture, it may not be cool to share, right? It may not be cool to do these certain
Yes.
things,
Hmm.
but we want to ensure that we're providing a safe environment. So that way, when you need something or when you're going through something, we're here. We got you. We're going to listen. We're going to walk with you, right? And we're going to go on this journey with you. And we want you to know that. And so something that we've done really well here is having those moments of check-in where we're like, hey, if you need something, we are here. We're going to provide the resources. We're going to show up when you need us. We're going to come and visit you all. We want you all to feel welcome here at the site, at the school. And if you need us, we're going to be here. So yes.
I like the, fact that you do point out and respect the idea of, like you said, this year alone, or as in the calendar year alone, has been very different for our area in Prince George's County when it comes to the migrant or immigrant population, and just being able to navigate through services, whether it's the encouragement to use services, but there may be fear behind it.
Correct.
Or, in this instance, I like the fact that you do acknowledge that sometimes asking questions, especially say, again, when it comes to a perspective from a young man within a culture, Asking
Hmm.
questions might not be the best thing, or might not be the
Correct.
best thing right up front. I don't know you. I'm going to
Right,
protect
right,
myself. I'm going to protect my family. I'm going to protect, our specific values. But you, as the professional, you, as the community schools clinician, participant, advocate, you may be able
hmm
to see that there's something else going on. I don't want to say that there's something wrong, but there's something else going on
right,
that maybe
right,
our young boys are dealing with, and they are
right.
trying to maneuver through and navigate through their own culture, as well as
Yeah,
maybe the shock of, American culture, or just, let's just say PG County culture, just
yeah,
trying
absolutely.
to navigate
Yep.
through that. And you're able to see. And so, but I also agree with you that there is a cultural difference when it comes to the way in which some people may approach the challenges of it, whether it's anger, anxiety, frustration, isolation when it comes to our young boys.
Hmm.
You may have grown up here in the States and there may be freedom to speak, but in
Right.
other cultures, there may be a hierarchy, or there may be, just a way of doing things that
That's right.
you are expected to respect.
Correct.
And
Absolutely.
and you've given a great example of how you're able to approach with respect to the culture, but also saying, hey, I am still here for you. Hmm.
That's right. That's right. No, that's something that we pride ourselves on, right? And because we have a large migrant immigration population, we understand that everybody is not accustomed or acculturated to the Kettering elementary school culture, right? Like we are one entity amongst many different entities that these students, these families, the community members at large have to interact with and engage with on a day-to-day basis, right? So as much as we're being a support, we're listening as well. We're learning as well. We're asking for support and help. Like, hey, you know what? We may have missed the mark on this. We recognize and realize that your family may have understood something differently, or you may have taken something different from it, right? And we want to say, hey, our intent was not necessarily the impact. And for that reason, what can we do to do better, right? What can we provide to be better? And we want to ensure that our families, our students, our community members really know that. The other point I was going to make, and I'm glad you brought this up, is the idea of underlying principles, right, that we may not see with our students and our families. One of my favorite, anytime I'm doing a training or I'm having a conversation with anybody, or giving a talk, one of the things that I always like to start with is a poem, and the poem is called "'Cause I Ain't Got a Pencil." It's
I
literally
love
the
that
basis.
poem. Yes. Oh my
Great. It is
goodness.
to me the basis of the work that we do as community school practitioners, coordinators, managers, you name it. It is the basis. It details, and it's by, I think his name is Junius Dickerson. It details a young student who wakes up early in the morning, has to go through different things in their life. So literally gets the little brother up, has to wash clothes, has to cook breakfast, has to catch a bus across town to drop the little child off, then go to their school. And when the student gets to school, the teacher yells at them and says, "You don't have a pencil." And to me, it outlines again the underlying principles of the work that we do, right? There's so many other factors that pertain to or that can influence or impact a student's day before they even see us. And so for us to be, as you mentioned, a lot of times the first opportunity to interact with that person or that student in a positive manner and engage with that student, it is imperative and pivotal in the work that needs to be done and that should take place. And so having the checkpoints in the morning where we're just, hey, how you doing? You okay? Did you eat breakfast? Are you hungry?
Breakfast. Oh my
Right? Do
goodness.
you,
Yes.
do you, right? Like that, like this stuff that we may take for granted because we have, there's students, there's families out there who don't have. And being mindful of that is a work, right? It's having a level of mindfulness and just being cognizant of these dynamics. And I think that really allow us and set us on a foundation of success as well as just learning and positivity. So I always just like to start with that poem because I ain't got a pencil.
Dakari, I wish we hadn't started out with that poem
Right.
because that poem, say it again for our audience.
Yep. No, so the poem is called "Cause I Ain't Got a Pencil." I think it's by Joshua, I think his name is Joshua Dickerson. But it literally, as I mentioned, it details a student who I'm assuming is an elementary school student or at least a K through 12 student. Gets himself up. They don't have an alarm clock. They have to like wash clothes, brush their teeth, do all these things by themselves to get to school to try to get a good breakfast. And then as soon as they get to school, the teacher yells at them because they don't have a pencil. And it's like something so basic as I don't have a pencil when we could have started that whole conversation off at school and the school being the first point of emphasis of this is a place where you're safe. We're not worried about no pencil right now. Let's talk about your well-being. Do you have your basic needs? Are you cold? Do you need socks on your feet? Do you need shoes? I see your jacket got a couple
Sorry.
holes in it. Let's switch that on. I got you. Like that's where we should and what we are doing here at the school, but also what we should be doing as health practitioners, because that's what we are. We are health practitioners. We are educational practitioners. We are people practitioners, and we want to ensure that we are allowing our students and our families to feel and understand that, and then bring them in so that way they can do the same thing as well.
When I tell you that I think that poem should be read the first day of what is it, either professional development or
Yep.
just that week
Orientation.
before school starts
Yep.
for teachers, for paraprofessionals, for specialist clinicians, just kind of a refresher. I
Mhm.
wish I could put that. Maybe we'll either have that poem posted up on the screen or after this episode, if you all will stay tuned at the end, we'll put the poem at the end because that is an amazing poem that gives you
Mhm.
insight into the day of a little one. We might see them as just a little one and just as the person, but we don't know what was happening just before they came into our presence. Thank you
That's
for
right.
mentioning that. I want to,
Absolutely.
as we're wrapping up, I
Mhm.
do want to ask your thoughts on what would you tell parents when it comes to things that they may observe about their young boys that could lead to the future label of, oh, he's toxic for a male or toxic
Right.
masculinity. What are some signs that you may see that you want parents to just kind of be keen on, and then just some tips for them, just some
Hmm.
positive encouragement, reinforcement, and
Hmm.
empowerment for the parents to have for their young ones that may be experiencing a little bit of what we talked about today.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. The distinction that I always make to parents is that just because they're a male, and in some cases, because they're a male, their emotional expression is vital. It is vital. It is not a weakness. It's a life skill. And in a society where we are taught as men, as males, to not show these emotions, to not show these feelings, to not express ourselves, it literally that is so counterproductive to what we could and what we should be doing and how we should be building and presenting ourselves that I hate that, right? And I don't like to use the word hate, but I do not like that at all. So I always start and tell parents, you know what? Emotional expression is not a weakness, it's a life skill. And so when boys learn to like name their feelings, right? When they're like, you know what? I don't feel like doing this today because I'm disappointed or I'm sad. Having those conversations with them. So when they learn to name their feelings, as they're asking for help and they're communicating respectfully, they become healthier men. They become better parents eventually, and they become more grounded leaders and individuals in their community. And so we want to ensure that, and as a parent, you want to ensure that you're providing your kids with the opportunity to do all of those things. And that looks like having communication with them, asking them, what they're going through, asking them what they saw today, what did they experience, what are they grateful for, right? And getting their feedback on things. How do they feel like they're parenting, right? Like I know again, culturally, that may not be apropos to ask your parent how you think I'm parenting, right? Like that could cause some issues in some households. But it's healthy, right? Like you want to, because as a parent, it's an exchange in some ways, right? You want to also be learning how to become a better parent. And so your son doesn't lose anything by being gentle, thoughtful, or vulnerable. right? He gains the ability to navigate the world with confidence and empathy. And that is what develops great leaders. And that's what we want to continue to develop within our students here. So, yeah, just listen, ask for advice, talk to them, communicate, share with them, spend time with them. All of these things, happen. And parenting, there's no exact science to parenting. I have a daughter myself, and so I'm learning every day of the day, every day, every time of the day. Like I'm learning, something new that I'm picking up. So I understand, but just continue to learn, being open and listening. So yeah,
I mean, I like that you gave tips for parents from the time of, childhood to adolescence to adulthood. You said that
yeah,
all of these efforts that they can make now can even, boost their child to become a great leader,
absolutely.
to have that confidence that they need. This has been a really, really good conversation. Typically, we ask for tips and resources to provide, and you have given that actually throughout the entire interview. What I would
Yeah,
like for you to do as we are closing out, can you give a message to young boys about
yeah, absolutely.
themselves? Let's end with that. From
Right.
one guy to another, what's a message that you have for the young boys as we wrap up this episode?
You know what? That's a great question. And I say it's a great question, and I would say it's also challenging in some ways because I feel like anytime I'm asked this question, it always changes. Um, I just finished a book by Jason Wilson, who's an author. He's
Uh-huh.
also a karate instructor. I follow a lot of his teachings, and the book is called The Man the Moment Demands. And so, one of the things that he emphasizes is that as a young male, it's okay. It's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to not know. It's okay to try new things. It's okay to ask for forgiveness. It's okay to show, that you don't have it all together right now. It's okay, right? And you do not have to live up to anybody else's ideal or ideology around what a man should look like or what a man should be. You're figuring it out. Just like everybody else is, you're figuring it out, and it's okay. And in that, though, and with that, there is a certain level of accountability and responsibility. And so, as you are telling yourself and you're figuring it out, figuring these things out in real time, there's still a level of accountability and responsibility that you have as a young male to yourself and to those around you. And that is something super, super powerful. So when you're in these situations and you're saying it's okay, I made this mistake. The second part of that statement should be, it's okay, but this is what I can do better next time. This is what I can try for next time. This is how I can improve. This is how I can improve, excuse me. What have I learned from this so that way I don't make this same mistake again? Right? So it's okay, but what can I do better next time? And I think that's something that we don't get a lot of opportunities, or at least we're not exposed to as an opportunity to really have and really share with young men, and young men really understand that. And so my message, I guess more succinctly, would be it's okay. And then what can you do to improve the next time?
Excellent.
Good.
Excellent. Period. This was an amazing interview. I am so glad we were able to get you back, have this
Yes, absolutely.
message
Anytime.
for this topic. We might have to have you back again. I'm going to try to make sure that we insert the poem at the end of this show.
Yep.
This has been an impactful series, and we are so thankful that you are able to come on and add your expertise and your insight, your thoughtfulness, and your compassion for this
Mhm.
group of young boys who become young men in this society, who can be
Yeah.
leaders, who can be caring and compassionate, and have that spectrum of emotions and feelings and still be okay, like you said.
You still be okay. That's right. That's right.
Yes. So
Well, Danielle,
thank you. Go ahead.
absolutely. No, I was gonna say, yeah, absolutely. These are conversations that are impactful. The intent is there, the impact is there. I know it. I've seen it firsthand. So I mean, this is really just a huge shout out to you and Wendy and the whole ABH family. Y'all are doing some amazing things there. And I just want everybody to know that. And I am super excited and appreciative of the opportunity to share today. So yes, anytime you need me, I am here. I am a lifelong supporter of you all. So yes, absolutely. I greatly appreciate you all.
Thank you so much. We want to thank Dakari again for coming on the show and providing his expertise. We want to thank you all for watching. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe. We are Advanced Behavioral Health, making a difference in mental health, and we will see you next time. Bye.